Hi, my name's Alexa Watson. This is my future predictions assignment. So I'll just dive right in with my tetrad analysis. The first part of that being what this technology will enhance. Pretty much all current technologies are being enhanced by artificial intelligence, kind of being backed up by that. So things like text-to-speech technology that enhances, typing on a traditional keyboard or on a screen if you're using your phone. The Alexa and Siri devices, those enhance most manual activities like writing items on your grocery list, turning on music or other softwares, even adjusting the temperature in your house, things like that. In the medical field, it also enhances things like x-ray analysis, and artificial intelligences can notice different patterns in it and compare it to a lot of different conditions or diseases much more quickly than a doctor would be able to, and same with emailing or calling you with that information. It would be a lot quicker and easier as well. It would make obsolete quite a few jobs, jobs like telemarketing, receptionists, editors, proofreaders, analysts, advertisers, security, things like that. Those jobs would all become prominently occupied by artificial intelligences, so those jobs would not be ones that are commonly done by humans anymore, so those would be made obsolete. It would retrieve potentially some historical evidence that we might not have had access to before, so things like paintings where only small pieces of them are found and kind of scattered around, or manuscripts, things like that, things that humans are not very good at putting back together, but artificial intelligence, with its ability to scan for patterns as well as use all of its information off the internet to make the best, most practical or realistic model of what that painting or article might have looked like at the time. It could also reverse into a technology that really just abandons humans rather than helps them. So instead of obeying human command and doing the jobs that they're created to do, they could become aware and act on their own. It's not very likely, but it is possible. It's something that you have to consider when thinking about adding this to a new technology. They could be programmed to do something devastating to our society. They could, ruin the economy and take away jobs from people instead of actually benefiting us and helping our economy to rise. Or they might achieve our goals, but not quite in the way that we intended. We put in our end goal, but they don't necessarily have the same thought process that we would exactly. They have a human thought process, but there's nothing to prove that they have empathy and things like that. Next, the ethical arguments. The first one of those being harm without consent. So really, all of society is put at risk by artificial intelligence. If it was to become dangerous, it's not something that you can disconnect from, really. It is something that would be able to work on computer softwares, on the internet, and it could just kind of take over everything from there. And it's not really something that you can opt out of as a person unless you, were to move far away, not have technology, things like that. The next being public harm of aggregation. So when used in large numbers, artificial intelligence could get out of control. If all of a sudden every household item, every company, everything everywhere has one, then it would be really hard just to shut it down if you were to realize a flaw in it, something like that. It would also take away a lot of jobs and skills from humans, if it was to become a common thing to have an artificial intelligence work as your receptionist, and all of a sudden there's no jobs for receptionists anymore, things like that. The final one being the violation of established world order. So until now, jobs were occupied by humans. There were a few jobs that were operated by robotics, so assembly line jobs, things like that, but jobs that required human intellect were always occupied by humans. And having new technology that could think like a human and act like a human would really just reduce the humans in the workload. It would also just bring up the argument of whether or not this is natural to have a technology that could act as a human. It would just bring up a lot of questions, like what would humans do now that they have more time on their hands? Would they become in rivalry with the artificial intelligences? Things like that. The next question is, how should humans treat artificial intelligence and the inevitable singularity? I don't think that artificial intelligence, that robotic system, I don't think that that's a human. I don't think it needs to have human rights. It doesn't have doesn't have feelings, it doesn't have emotions, it doesn't experience pain in the same way that humans do. It has the ability to think like a human if it were to pass the Turing test, but even then, it is still just a technology. And if they were to, have the ability to experience pain, then that would become a different question. But again, then you would have to ask, is this an advancement to our technology that's going to benefit us, or just one that's going to end up being more difficult for us to work with in the long run? Singularity being the hypothetical future point at which technology becomes uncontrollable and irreversible, that's definitely something that should be researched. I think there's a lot of questions about technology that should be seriously thought through before it becomes, too commonly spread. So things like, how could this go wrong? How big would this have to be before it was out of control? Is it possible that these technologies could, take over our society, take over our jobs, take over our skills? And is this a technology that's going to benefit all humans, or is this just going to be an elite few that benefit from it while the rest of us maybe suffer because of it? Again, the question is asked, what ethical or moral rights are going to apply to these artificial intelligences? I don't think human rights should apply to them. If they do think like a human, they should have some rights, as in what their working environment, so that it is safe for the technology. But that's more of a proactive thing than a personal thing. The technologies don't have the same needs as humans. They don't need to go home after working to rest and to be with loved ones, and they don't need a mental break from work. They are made to work. I don't think there's anything wrong with just shutting them off after their work is done for the day and just leaving them there. It's not going to hurt them. They aren't human. They aren't living beings. They don't breathe. They don't experience pain. So yeah, I don't think they really need any rights in that sense. Finally, the question is asked, what purpose are these going to serve in society, being artificial intelligence? Where are they going to be employed? So I think there's a lot of tedious, kind of mundane tasks that don't require a lot of ethics to them. Like Alexa and Siri, for example, they're kind of public servants now. They just help you get through your day-to-day activities without, straining yourself too much. Jobs like telemarketing, research, organizational clerks, things like that, those are, great ways that you could apply artificial intelligence without taking humans out of a place where they really should be. Disadvantages, of course, they could take away jobs from humans who need an income. They can be programmed to think like a human, so they should have our ethics, but there's nothing saying that if they were programmed by someone who maybe got a little too greedy to do something that is wrong in the eyes of most humans, there's nothing to say that they would understand that that is wrong and, deny that request. There's nothing to say that they have the ability to do that. So to sum it up quickly, because this video is already pretty long, it's pretty much impossible to guess what the future is going to be like. I don't think that artificial intelligence will be much more prominent than it is now in the year 2050. AI has been discussed for decades, but it's just recently had proper models made that have passed the Turing test. I just conclude by saying I don't think these technologies are anywhere near well enough research to be integrated into most of society, especially in the form of a ultra intelligent artificial intelligence.